Hello, everyone. Again, my name is John Pappas. I'm a director of product at Salesforce. And before I get into the thick of it, the lawyers are making me say that the group called Salesforce Ventures has previously invested in Pendo. I also do want to just pause for a second and thank Todd, thank Michael Peach, thank Raul, thank everyone on the Pendo team for inviting us here to this beautiful city of Raleigh and for the opportunity to meet with colleagues of ours. So big round of applause to the Pendo team. Yeah. And I get to talk about my favorite part of building products, which is the trial experience. And as I said, I'm a product manager, director of product at Salesforce. I've been there for 6 years. The first 3 years, I worked on Chatter and what is now today the Communities Cloud. And the last 3 years, I've been working on specifically the Service Cloud, focusing on trial, admin, and mobile. Just for fun, I thought I'd throw in a little bit more about me. I love to talk about this stuff, so if you want to find me later, I'm a big fan of Burning Man. I go every year, 6 years Burning Man as well. I love to build things. That's my house that I built, and I built a shower system for 150 people. I also like to ride two-wheeled vehicles, so motorcycles and Vespas. Could talk about that all day as well. But we're not here to talk about Burning Man. We're here to talk about trial experiences. So this is what I'm going to go through. I'm going to give you a little bit background on my experience when I joined the Service Cloud team. We're going to talk about the desk trial experience. Then I'm going to show you the version 2 and version 3 of that experience. We're going to give you some examples of innovation. So to that point of ideas of things that you might be able to use for your own trial experience, hopefully we'll give you some of those. And then finally, some lessons learned. So Salesforce. Who here has actually used Salesforce before? Yes, lots of people. OK, so as you know, Salesforce is a SaaS company. We grew up on CRM, customer relationship management software. But today, we are a customer success platform. So not only are we addressing sales, but there's service, there's marketing, there's communities, there's analytics, there's e-commerce, there's IoT now, and of course, the Lightning platform. So we've got lots of different areas, all focused on creating an amazing customer experience. And so when I joined the Service Cloud team, the first thing that they had asked me to do was to help out one of our acquisitions. First was called Assistly, and then we renamed it to just Desk. And they had asked me to come check out this desk trial experience and see what it is that we can do to improve it. So this is kind of what I walked into in 2014. So as you register, you enter the product, you're given this sort of this splash screen with a video to watch, a quick overview of Desk. And then right after you click through that, you would get this mask thing that would kind of point to different things and say, like, you know, these are case filters, they're like folders. And then you click through to that, and then you just land in the inbox. Now, I do have to give the original Assistly team some credit here that they made the application very similar to email, so it was kind of intuitive, right? So you didn't really need a ton of instruction to figure it out if you were relatively savvy to begin with. And so what would happen here is you would click into one of those sample cases, and then we'd give you another mask. And that was pretty much it. We'd kind of left the user to the rest of figuring out how to use this product. So we were rethinking this trial, right? And these were some of the questions that we were asking. You know, how can we improve our trial to paid conversion rate? Obviously, this is a big question everyone's asking. How can we provide more aha moments within this trial experience? So how can we really kind of open the user's eyes to how powerful this application is going to be and how it's going to solve all of your service needs? And then also, how can we help prospects set up more quickly, right? So it's really about time to value. How can you get your prospects to realize real value from your trial experience as quickly as possible, right? That was the goal. So these were like the three main questions. Some challenges that we had. So On the metrics side, so we had a bunch of different tools. We had Mixpanel, we had Tatango, we had this and this and this. And they were all well-intentioned, but they weren't really instrumented for specific answers, right? They were kind of just told, hey, engineering team, go implement this solution, and we'll figure out what to do with it later. Fortunately, you can kind of do that with Pendo to some degree. But using these other tools, you really have to have a strategy of like what it is that you want to capture and what questions you want to answer. So that was a big problem. Again, the lack of onboarding experience. So again, I felt like we were leaving way too much to the user. It's great that the product was kind of intuitive out of the box, but we could be doing a lot more there. And then finally, and I want to kind of stress this part, best practices. So we weren't really giving our users the best practices on how to use the application, how we recommend you actually use filters, right? So let's just go into the second version of the trial. So trial 2.0, we decided to kind of re-implement the experience using like these walkthroughs, right? These guided experiences, because we felt that the mask we didn't really have much to hang off of in terms of instrumentation. We couldn't tell, okay, they dismissed it, but are they engaged by it? Are they using this information? So at least the walkthroughs were allowing us to build funnel charts and seeing where are they dropping off, where are they getting confused, where are they pausing for maybe too long. And then we would drill into a case, and I want to just go straight to the improvement slide. Yeah, so we built this on top of this guide framework, and we introduced this idea of setup moments. So in that experience, you would drill into the case detail. We'd show you how easy it was to respond to a customer, and we'd say, boom, wasn't that easy? Why don't you get your email set up right now? We realized that if we could get them into that email setup process, that micro setup moment, that would actually double the conversion rate, right? So that was really key. We also standardized the way we track user behavior. So we re-implemented Mixpanel with a strategy this time. So very clear and naming conventions. We consolidated everything under one project. And we instrument with intention. I love to say that. Instrument with intention. We had very specific questions that we wanted to answer, and we instrumented to answer those questions. And then we started doing some basic split testing. So being able to test whether one version of our experience is better than the other. So we were able to rapidly iterate on that. And again, the setup moments were a big part of this 2.0 experience. But I still felt like there were things missing, right? I felt like that we could still do better. So one of the big things was I felt like this one-size-fits-all experience, which was we were giving every user the exact same thing as you entered the product, that wasn't very innovative, right? We could do better than that. Cross-platform capability was actually one of our issues. So part of our application was built in Ruby on Rails. The other part of our application was built in Angular, and building a system that could kind of go between those two things easily meant that we kind of had to rebuild things twice. Pendo helped us solve a lot of that problem too. So number 3, still not really showcasing the power of the product. So we were getting them through some of those experiences. We were giving them these aha moments. But I don't feel like we were really hitting on all the power of this product. And then finally, not addressing best practices. Again, I think this is probably one of the hardest parts, is really weaving in those best practices and training, not just showing users how to use what the product does, but training them how to actually use the product. What are the best practices there? So the third version, introducing Pendo, we decided to recreate the entire trial experience using the guides framework from Pendo. Obviously, we drastically improved our metrics collection. We had this nice dashboard. We're able to see Mal and Dao right there. And then I think most importantly, and this is what really kind of hit home for us, was being able to rapidly innovate on our walkthrough experience and our trial experience. So we were able to do much more things. So we introduced this idea of a welcome mat, this kind of like choose your own adventure starting point. We had some experiences that were quite lengthy. some walkthrough experiences that were quite lengthy. So we introduced progress bars rather than step counts, like step 1 of 25. Instead, you're like, I'm 6% in. Much less intimidating for longer experiences. Setup moments, again, we love these. We started introducing more of those. The email setup wizard, we did a second version of that because we saw how incredibly powerful that was. Best practices, so we were actually able to dip our toes into how can we get people to start using best practices. And then finally, tailoring this setup to be industry specific. So if you're in software, you might have a different way of organizing things than if you were in retail or if you were in e-commerce. So we took that and we helped tailor the experience based on your industry. So here I'm going to go through a bunch of little pictures of this new experience. So when you entered the product, you landed in our latest version of the agent inbox, and we landed you here on what we call a welcome mat. So you have these 3 tours that you could jump into, and you can see up here in the top right an example of the progress bar in line on the walkthrough. You can kind of just hover your mouse over there to show you the percentage. So down here we have what we call action steps. We wanted to make our action steps more actionable, so we visually made them distinct from info steps, where we actually are asking the user to do something. So we would even have like a little icon, click on here to open up a case. You could have a keyboard if you want them to type something in, or you can have a little like hand if you want them to drag and drop something. So giving them those clues, if you want them to do something, make it as clear as possible, right? And also just the flexibility of being able to skin these modals was really, really awesome. Our UX team loved this project because there were no limitations, really. We could just kind of create whatever we wanted, and we were able to create these really nice looking these modals. So in the second tour, we really got to do a lot more of that showcasing the power of the product. So we said, we're going to show you some of the awesome features of Desk. And to do that, we're going to give you kind of a harbor tour of the admin. That was the best place to do that. That's where you're going to be configuring everything. That's where you're going to be where you're going to be setting everything up. So naturally, that was a good place to kind of start. So we would bring them into the admin interface. We would take them around. We'd do this little white glove kind of, look how amazing this feature is, how you can do channels. Again, there's another example of a walkthrough step that has sort of like an inline image. The UX team loved this kind of stuff. So here's another example of, so we wanted to bring them to this apps page, and we wanted to show them all the different kind of apps that you can integrate with Desk. And for this walkthrough step, we actually had it fly in from the bottom and then pinned there. So the user could scroll up and down the page, and the modal would stay right where it was. And when they're done looking at the page, they can just click next and move on. So we really did think of like, what is this experience that we want to create, right, from start to finish. This goes back to the 150 slide deck that we sent. And then let's go. This is the final walkthrough was about getting set up, right? So this is, again, time to value. These are some activities that we knew that if you did these activities, you were much more likely to convert. So let's make that as easy as possible. Literally hold their hand through the process of adding a new user for the first time. Here's just the first screen of that email setup wizard that really has driven a lot of value for us. I wanted to highlight it here because this was pretty clever ninja work where we had the guide framework go through this experience, and then once we got to the email setup wizard, we actually turned it over to a native dialog. So that whole wizard is all natively built, right? That was the only part that my engineering team had to do. So you'd go in, you'd enter your current support email address, and it would do this really cool round trip testing to make sure that you set up forwarding correctly. So that was really cool. And then right when you were done with that, it would go seamlessly right back into the Pendo experience. We put that right in the middle. So I thought that was pretty cool. So best practices. This is a really great example of how we decided to implement best practices. So, I don't know if you remember on the first sort of version 1, we said like these are folders, these are filters, they're kind of like folders. Well, what are they? There's a difference between filters and folders. So we explained that we're going to organize your cases by first creating a custom field called case category. And then we're going to use that custom field to create filters so you can find exactly what you want. Right? That might not have been intuitive out of the box, but we explained what we're going to do. And then we introduced this little guy called the admin guru who said, hey, listen, I'm going to help you get set up. And the first question he'd asked was, what industry are you in? Right? Are you in software? Are you in services? Are you in retail? And then you select, let's say, software, for example, and it says, great. Well, we've seen other businesses in software and apps organize their cases based on some of these kinds of filters, right? And so we'd say product feedback or maybe feature requests, different ways that you'd probably want to organize your incoming support cases. And then after you've selected that, this was really, really cool sort of looping logic that we did on Pendo. We then actually walked you through the process of creating your custom field, and then adding each one of those values that you had selected manually. You have to go in and type in feature request. So at the end of this process, you understand now how to create more filters, you understand how the system works, right? So we didn't just show you, we trained you on how to do this for your use cases. Right? So I thought that this was really cool, really clever. So some lessons learned. I like to think about this as like a content experience. What is that experience that you want to give your users? And engineering is great. You can code all day, but I want to say that the majority of the work really is in what is your plan? What is your content experience? What is your strategy? What is it that you want? Where are you going to place these moments where people have these aha moments, right? You really need to go in with a plan. You can't just start throwing stuff around and saying, okay, well, maybe this will help, right? Again, don't just show them, teach them. This will drastically increase your conversion rate. Iterate, of course, iterate. I don't think anyone is surprised to hear that. I think we'll say that all day. But yes, you have to iterate. You have to see what works. You have to split test. You have to choose what works and double down on that, right? One thing that when we re-implemented with Pendo, there were a couple of things that we had in mind, but we never really baked into the original strategy. So if I was going to go back and say a version 4, these would probably be some of the things that I would be thinking about. So I know it would be possible to split test, to set up campaigns and things. Just because this is an experience that you built on a third-party tool doesn't mean you shouldn't treat it any less, right? It is product. You're shipping product. This is what your users are going to be touching and feeling. So you should be treating it the exact same way. If your organization values trust and making sure that your product is bug-free, then think about how you might want to automate your testing to make sure that all of your guided experiences are working, and that if something changes, that something will raise a red flag and you'll know to actually go fix it, right? And I think that is it. Yeah.